Yes, guys, you know what time it is. It's Stats with Jack time on a bit of a Saturday evening, joined by Izhan, who you definitely haven't seen from the fan shows, who's actually outstatted me, I would say, probably plenty of times when he's come on. David and I have taken a real liking to him, so I figured, he kind of be my partner in crime for this bit of Stats with Jack. But Izhan, how you keeping today? Have you seen a lot of Chelsea before? Or is it a team you're kind of familiar with? Because I think that's what you can really help me out on, is kind of breaking down the opposition today.
Yeah, I did watch quite a few Chelsea games, and it's going to be really interesting to see how they set up versus how we set up, and maybe if we analyze both teams today, we can see how the game will go.
Yeah, loving it. Yeah, maybe a bit of
Yeah.
they kind of in that four in the back though, which I think is a lot different than what we're
hmm
used to. But let's just greet the Harris Army for today. Everybody, as always, if you do kind of like this show on a Saturday night to kind of your kind of vibe, just to put the stats straight into your veins, feel free to drop that like button as well. Hit that subscribe button if you are new to the Harris Army, if you are new to the Irish Hotspur, and as well if you have maybe some kind of stats for Ishan or just anything that you maybe want to talk about when it comes to Chelsea or Spurs, feel free to throw it in a super chat, but I will bring up your comments as much as I can. But we do have Adil Bukhari saying, come on, boys, let's get our revenge tomorrow. We can do it. Love the show, Jack. Appreciate you, Adil. Appreciate you. Hopefully you're keeping well as well. Derek Hutchinson is in the building. He's wanting to kick the Chelsea butt tomorrow. Absolutely. Anthony Gray saying, I feel Conte will be really up for this game, as I feel he's concentrating on getting top four with two recent League Cup games against Chelsea. Conte will be well prepared for them. I mean, yeah, third time's the charm. I think is going to be
Yeah.
the case this time, Anthony, my man. It's kind of really disappointing though. Like also as well, like the Nuno performance, all these kind of put together. It is kind of just not been our team this year. Sue Smith's in the building,
hmm
absolute diamond, as Brian Daigle says. Such a terrible record at the bridge over the years. I'd happily take. Yeah, I think a point is
Yeah.
it's a free hit
Yeah.
for me, Sue. Maybe that's the. It's an unfortunate mentality, but it just feels like a bit of a free hit here, Sue, for me. I won't be too disappointed. I just feel like they just can do still a little bit better than they did, especially just do better than they did in the first leg. The
Just need
first leg
just
was
need to
atrocious.
yeah, just need to put up a fight, to be honest. And if we come away with a point, we'll all gladly take that.
Yeah, absolutely. Spot on, my man. Mr. K's in the house. Big up, Mr. K. Absolutely. Hopefully it's the 4-1 as an honor of Bob Spur, my man. Killian Kenny says, big up, David Harris. Come on, you Spurs. What a late win at Leicester City. 3-2. Let's get the 2-0 win tomorrow. Absolutely love it, Killian. Here's your shout out, my man, and big yourself up. Hopefully you're keeping well, brother. Aiden Doherty's in the building saying, hope you guys are all good. I'm doing well. I think Ishan is doing well. He's going to kind of partner in crime today as well, Aiden. Josh Barnett saying, hope all is well, guys. Optimistic about tomorrow. If we take it to them and win our battles, I think we'll be in for a good match. Fans need to be vocal too, but no doubt we'll be behind the lads. Absolute beauty there, Josh. Honestly, put that on the refrigerator tomorrow. Beautifully said, my man. And as well, hopefully we do that 3-5-2, because that's what I'm banking on to actually work
hmm
maybe tomorrow, my man. Brian McGuire's in the house as well. Zoe's in the house. Absolute legend. Always good to see Zoe. Spurs is in the house. Chris, absolute legend. Good to see you, Chris. Hopefully you're keeping well. Hopefully, yeah, 95% recovered. That is beautiful to see. Probably by tomorrow on Spurs Day, on game day, seems like you'll be 100%. Might as well put you in the lineup. Maybe like a cheeky Romero kind of recovery there, Chris. Well done, my man. But big yourself up. Wayne Bonner's also in the house. Good to see him. Para Miguel Escobardo, big up to absolute legend. People are greeting Ishan, saying hello to Ishan. That's beautiful to see. Big up, everybody. Big up Ishan for joining him for me today as well. Matt C as well. Going to be maybe old up. I mean, they might as well put it in the gift
Watch
shop,
it.
my man. They'll put it in the gift shop. But it's good to see you. Just making sure I'm not missing anybody before I get to Dark Sun G Super Chat. Graham's in the house as well. Good to see you, Graham. Sean Butler's in the house. Beautiful to see as well. Kane the long shot, good to see you, my man. Absolute legend as well. Really way too kind to me as Kane the long shot as well. Just making sure, boys. But everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciating you kind of just sitting back, putting the stats into the veins for tonight to give you that optimism for tomorrow night. But Dark Sun G saying, come on, you Spurs. Since Man United beat West Ham, we have to win tomorrow. I do believe is on Man United are on they're on 23 matches played or 22 matches played with 38 points, and West Ham are on 23 matches played with 37 points. And of course, we're 2 points behind Man United and West Ham. Do you feel like, let's say
Mhm.
we don't win tomorrow, do you feel like it will really be detrimental to maybe those games in hand we have?
L- Um, yes and no. We have to consider that our fixture list is tough. so it will get easier later in the season. I feel if we can get 1 point from tomorrow,
Yeah.
that'd be a big boost.
Yeah, I think that would help dramatically. At least it wouldn't be a full 6 points lost against them. I think that could go a long way.
Mhm.
Dark Sun G as well saying, "Isn't Dyer playing tomorrow? If he is, we have a chance." I believe he is. I think he's actually gonna be slotted right
Mhm.
in there. They're showing a lot in the training videos. Dark Sun G. They're really panning in on Christian Romero as well as Eric Dyer. It seemed like that's kind of sometimes that kind of inclination that they're probably going to be included. Maybe I don't think Romero will be, but I think they're kind of
No.
showing that he's on the way back. He's kind of hanging
Mhm.
out with the lads again, kind of doing full training sessions. And then Eric Dyer seems to be, I think, in for this one. I think even Conte alluded to it, if I'm not mistaken. But I think we have a chance then, Dark Sun G. Absolutely, my man. But like always, everybody, we're about to break it down here. But as always, everybody, please drop a like button if you do like Stats with Jack on this type of occasion, on this type of evening, as well as maybe give you that preview to maybe to the pre-match buildup. It's almost like two previews in one kind of special kind of combination with what we do tomorrow as well with David. So you get the stats the evening before, and then you get kind of the full kind of debatey kind of questions on kind of the game the following morning. So everybody, please drop that like, drop a super chat as well, like Dark Sun G has so generously. If you do want to stop the show at any occasion, as always, though, I will get through your comments. And Dark Sun G saying, "How did you enjoy the Conte Cam and Stevie goal?" Oh, I mean, the Conte Cam was unbelievable because sometimes I feel like there's so many times when Conte feels so bad for him with some of the chances that we miss because you can tell he's just absolutely feeling the adrenaline coursing through his veins, and then it just kind of gets let through him. But it was beautiful to see him celebrating with the hitman as well as Han. But I mean, what
Yeah.
did you think of the Conte Cam?
I mean, I love Conte's reactions on the touchline because he has the same passion and enthusiasm as if he was a Spurs fan as well. And I think that really resonates with the fan base, him being so, emotionally invested in the game and the
Yeah.
team.
I think as well. I mean, Ben Davies, supposedly he's done before, but he ran straight to the dugout as well, which is beautiful to see. He greets and
Mhm.
hugs all the players, like I think a lot of class managers do. I do love that as well. Honestly, I mean, I think we're all in love with Antonio Conte. It was beautiful Conte Cam, probably one of the better ones. I would say Dark Sun G, especially, but also the Stevie goal angles were just ridiculous. And I would say
Yeah.
that Harry Kane pass just gets more scrumptious every single time you see it from every angle, my man.
Mhm.
But big yourself up, Dark Sun G. Do appreciate it, brother. But we are going to break down Chelsea first, as always. You kind of do the vegetables first before we get to the main course for this one. Cold hard facts: Chelsea have won 5 of their last 6 league games versus Spurs, keeping 5 clean sheets in the process. This is kind of why I'm kind of likened it to a free hit. It's just a team that we just struggle with. It's a bit of our bogey team, I must say, especially maybe away from home. Tottenham have won one of their last 31 away league games to Chelsea, just as I was alluding to there earlier, which is very, very unfortunate in this case. Tottenham have failed to score in each of their last 5 fixtures against Chelsea in all competitions. We've never gone 6 games without scoring against the same opponent in our entire history. Now, that is a scary stat, a bit of a stat of doom. I would probably say right there. And Chelsea have conceded as well the third fewest goals this Premier League season. A bit of probably a bonus fact I would probably say as well. Wolves are actually ahead of them, which is quite remarkable to see. So honestly, kind of Bruno
Mhm.
Lage, there you go. Head-to-head record, all-time record versus Chelsea for Spurs is 55 wins, 41 drawn, and 76 lost. Last 5 fixtures was, of course, we played them already 3 times this season, which were all losses. And then last season, we had that 1-0, I believe, loss away, and then that draw at home. And then the record versus Tuchel. Whoops, I think for
It's
Conte, I
one
meant to put
loss.
2 there. Yeah, I meant to put 2 there. I
Huh.
think it's 2 losses for him. And then Conte's record, bit of a stats with Jack typo there. Conte's record versus Chelsea is 1 win, 1 drawn, and 2 lost. And then Tuchel's, he's undefeated against us, which is horrible to see, I must say. The guy has found it quite easy for us. But
Mhm.
Ishan, here's what I've gone for Chelsea. They've kind of, I think, since some of their Christensen, I believe, is still kind of out, maybe with
Yes.
COVID, I believe as well. They do have Malang Sarr. I think Shalaba is returning, but won't be available for this one. They're kind of, without some of their
Reece
main
James
center
as well
backs.
is injured.
And Reece James is out, who they would be their
Yeah.
flying wing back. So they've gone for recently more 4 in the back kind of sort of shape, kind of formations. And I feel like they found a bit of trouble with it. So what would you make of maybe this kind of starting kind of predicted lineup maybe for Chelsea here? I kind of am seeing a lot of rumors that Werner might start, and then with Lukaku, what do you feel like could be their predicted lineup? Maybe where do you feel like someone else
Yeah.
might take someone's place?
I think it is gonna be fourth back because they do have a lot of injuries in their defense. Obviously, Chilwell as well is injured. So, and I think this is actually an advantage since were really fine-tuned and ingrained into playing that five at the back system. I think that the fact they had to rapidly change it up in the middle of the season uh, may make them less tactically familiar, and
Mm,
this could be something we could capitalize on because this is clearly something they haven't played. I believe they played a 4-2-2-2
yeah.
against Brighton, and Brighton came away with a point. So, maybe we can do the same. If we're certainly a better squad or a better team than Brighton, so maybe we could even get the win. Who
Do
knows?
you think do you think Chelsea's been better in this kind of four in the back shape, or do you feel like they've been kind of a lot worse with this?
Definitely worse, I think. I think especially Rudiger, right? Him in a back four, it just doesn't work that well because I don't think defensively he's strong enough, and his strength is making those runs forward. And if he's not on the outside of a back three, it's really hard for him to play to his strengths. So he's being forced to play to his weakness in a sense.
Mm. And then I feel like, this could be the lineup, especially I feel like Ziyech seems to be starting to be favored again. Maybe someone might take Mason Mount's position, but I feel like they will play Mason
Hmm.
Mount against Spurs. It just seems like one of those players that will. The one I'm a bit confused on is maybe whether, who will partner Jorginho or whether Jorginho will even play at all. Play at all. They sometimes have gone Kovacic and N'Golo Kante together. So that one's kind of hard to pick. Rudiger and Silva, I do believe, will be the back too. And then with Aspilicueta, I feel like recently I've seen him kind of bomb forward a lot. So it's kind of hard to
Yeah.
say whether they even form a three in the back. They kind of just seem to do a straight kind of four in the back sort of shape, which is, I will say, very interesting because it's just like Izan said, it's not what we're used to, and maybe not what even Conte or the squad might be used to. But we are going to our unsung hero for Chelsea here. It is Antonio Rudiger, and I feel like I've kind of gone for what, maybe more seeing eye test sort of like people for me kind of picking these ones instead of just, using the stats for this one, as well as some other players that I'm going to pick later, kind of just using the players that have really caught my eye. And I feel like the big one is Rudiger, where he's won the most aerials in the whole squad, second most progressive carries, which I know Izhan will probably love to break down when it comes to Chelsea's center backs and how they kind of play. Second most carries into the final third in his entire Chelsea squad, the second most clearances, most switches of play, which I think is pretty crazy, most passes into the final third, most progressive passes, and the second most long passes completed in the entire squad. And Tony Rudiger, sometimes he looks a bit clunky, kind of is on. I do love his kind of shithousery, though, as well.
Yeah.
He's definitely kind of somebody who doesn't have a good history with us that we definitely do despise, but sometimes I do kind of respect the game that he does offer, and he's having a great season with them. Any of these stats maybe come kind of catch your eye, or anything that maybe you kind of feel like with Antonio Rudiger that needs to be said?
I mean, we can see here, second most progressive carries, second most carries into the final third. That's him. Those stats come from him playing in a back five, where he sort of has more license to do that, especially with two defensive midfielders in front of him. In a back four, can he really do that? I don't think so. But I think
Interesting, yeah.
yeah, I think what we do have to worry about is the the switches of play and the passes into the final third. That means he has a really good long ball, and we know like Sanchez and even Tanganga to an extent can be caught napping at the back. So that's something we're gonna have to worry about.
I feel like you breaking down the fact that Rudiger might not be these sort of stats that we're talking about here, they might not be maybe as relevant, or maybe won't be just happening as frequently if he is kind of, in this four in the back where he kind of probably will have to be more that, probably that sweeper, you might say as well. Just want to say big up to
Hmm.
Socrates, though. Big yourself up, man. It's good to see you. But we do have a super chat in here from Dark Sun G, and he's saying if we play similar to Brighton, we could win because they drew with Chelsea twice. Chelsea lost 4 Premier League games and are third in division, or three
Got three
draws and one
draws.
loss. Of those three draws and two draws, are Brighton. Of those are Brighton. Let's win. Yeah, Brighton. I feel like they've had like something like 11 draws or something like this season. They're basically one of the weirder, kind of tougher teams to
Yeah,
beat.
11 draws. Yeah.
Yeah, they're kind of a tougher team to beat, I feel like, Brighton, than sometimes people give them credit for. And
Mhm.
at times they play honestly ridiculous football, especially Cucurella, I would say, is ridiculous. But that
Yeah.
Brighton game, Dark Sun G, I did catch actually the whole Brighton game because I kind of wanted to study up on maybe what they did maybe well against Chelsea, but they really just did like a full kind of, press really high up the pitch and worked really hard, which hard to
Mhm.
see whether we'll do that. But honestly, they played unbelievable against them. But I mean, Dark Sun G, I mean, what do you feel like, Ishan? Do you feel like Dark Sun G, if we play similar to Brighton, do you see us playing similar to Brighton maybe against Chelsea tomorrow?
To be honest, I don't see us playing similar to Brighton because in terms of PPDA, Brighton are third lowest in the league, so just behind Leeds and Liverpool, who are the
Dang.
most intense pressers. And in terms of OPPDA, Brighton are also third in the league, just behind Liverpool and Man City.
Wow.
So to an extent, you have to give Graham Potter credit because he is playing a very
That domination
modern,
sort of style.
yeah,
Yeah.
very modern style of football, and I think that's why Brighton are really overperforming. I think we're gonna set up differently. We will press from the front, defend from the front, and press high. Maybe not as intensely as Brighton, but I do think that some of those key principles Conte will definitely apply.
hmm Love that. Absolutely. Love that answer. Beautiful answer. William Kelly saying, I don't mind if we lose to Chelsea. Just show up for the fight and for the cause and go down fighting. Beautifully said, William Kelly. I just want
Mhm.
them to perform better than they did in the first leg. I mean, I think they definitely showed that in the second leg. I feel like sometimes was kind of it's an unfortunate way to go out that we didn't even score, but I feel like it actually wasn't a bad performance on the whole when I do kind of think about it, that second leg against Chelsea. And if they do even better than that, I think I'd honestly be quite proud of them, William Kelly. But big yourself up, my man. I do feel like this could be a game where maybe Antonio Conte gets it right. Maybe the boys get it right with this one. We do have more players coming back. Eric Dyer is back, who can help us tremendously. We didn't have Eric Dyer for those two legs, I think, against Chelsea in the first place. So I don't know. Maybe it might be a different case this time, William Kelly, though. Might be a different
Yeah.
case.
Another thing you have to consider is that we're playing at home, and
Yeah.
we know how much the home fans give the team a huge boost. I mean, the atmosphere is absolutely incredible at the stadium. So, we have the home field advantage, and hopefully we can apply it.
I think we're going to be away for this one, aren't we?
I thought we played them away
No, I think they're going to be at home for this
already.
one. So it's going to be at Stamford Bridge for this one. It's going to be a bit tougher,
Oh,
my man.
really?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
no.
it's going to change his whole mentality. But don't worry. You
Yeah,
watch
yeah,
the
you're
pre
right.
match
It's
build
at
up
Stamford
tomorrow.
Bridge.
You watch the pre-match build up and the pre-match pump up, and you'll just go into the
Mhm.
delusion
Yeah,
land
yeah,
that we give you over on the Irish shots for. But pick yourself up,
yeah.
Mr. Kelly. Good to see you, my man. Say hello to Luke for me as well, my man as well. But we will be breaking down the key player as well for Chelsea here, and it is going to be Mason Mount, who has the most goals in the entire squad, the most shots on target. Most shots and the most shots on target, tied for the most key passes as well in the entire squad, most passes into the penalty area, which I feel like is a very dangerous stat actually to look at as well. It means I feel like he doesn't play a lot of crosses, Mason Mount. I think that just shows that he's just very good at kind of threading balls into the 18. Tied for the most assists in the entire squad, most goal creating actions and shot creating actions, and he has the most pressures in the attacking third. I would just say he's kind of just an annoying kind of little mosquito sometimes. Mason Mount, I feel like he just kind of pops up everywhere. He never really stops running. He is kind of a really tough player against us. He really is kind of difficult. But there's my kind of key player is Han. Do you feel like you prove maybe that's probably one of the most dangerous players you could probably think of in that Chelsea squad?
Yeah, definitely. I'd say very, very underrated player this season. He's not getting as much praise as he used to, and I think Mount with the ball, without the ball, he's a very dangerous player. A lot of his, late runs into the box can also be pretty dangerous for us. So that's like someone we really need to keep an eye on, definitely.
Yeah, I feel like with Mason Mount, he's just kind of just somebody that just kind of drifts all across kind of the entire 18. He kind of doesn't really stick to kind of one position, and he is quite good at kind of being able to play in kind of those tight areas, and does have a decent finish on him as well. Maybe hence why he has the most goals actually in that squad. And I've kind of will isolate this later, but Chelsea, a lot of their goal scorers, it doesn't really come from their strikers. It always comes, it seems like, from someone else in the squad, and we kind of will break that down later. But Mason Mount, everybody, is going to be the key player for this one. And those are a lot of stats that I feel like do really benefit him. But this is going to be how do Chelsea attack. And the first one here is going to be Hakim Ziyech, actually, for me, is Han. What I kind of like about Hakim Ziyech is that I feel for one of kind of the skinniest legged kind of people I've ever seen, he has the most power on a left foot I've seen in actually some time. That guy, he really does hit it with a lot of venom for somebody that doesn't really look like he would. I think a really talented sort of player, somebody that I feel like we always need to look out for. Obviously, he's had good games against us, especially when he played for Ajax, but somebody I do really rate. I feel like, and so we are going to kind of break down what he will do. I feel like you can. I'll let you go, Azan, on this. Kind of let you go off here a bit. What I kind of really feel like Ziyech will do is that he'll have some sort of shot like this, kind of outside the box with a lot of space. And if you give him too many opportunities, if you give him too much space, he might bang it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Ziyech has an amazing left foot, maybe not such a good right foot, but definitely
Yeah,
that
very
left
one
foot
foot
can,
dominated.
yeah,
Yeah,
you definitely that left foot. He has a lot of power. He also adds a lot of curve to his shot as well. He's
yeah,
very technically skilled that way. And if we're going to set up in a low, low block, sort of hit them on the break, I think Chelsea, especially Ziyech, could keep putting up long shots, and eventually one will go in. So
yeah. I completely agree.
yeah,
I just feel like he's just somebody that I know he does play for Chelsea, but I've always kind of just kind of admired him. I feel like he is one of the most technically gifted kind of sort of players, and he kind of moves around just really kind of tricky. He's just a really tricky
mhm.
player. I feel like he doesn't really rely on a bit of pace or anything. Kind of just uses his body, I feel like, really well, and also just has really unbelievable technical ability. And especially, I would say, watch out for these sort of shots from outside the box, but also watch out when he has the ball on the wing outside the box, where he can kind of put in a really good ball at the back post as well. He's just a dangerous player, I must say, Ziyech. And I believe he's starting to get kind of favored by Thomas Tuchel by the looks of it. It seems like they're starting to kind of take a liking to him. But Mason Mount is my second one here, is on my second sort of like major threat. I feel like what Mason Mount just does, like I said, he just does so much movement. That's what I'm kind of trying to emphasize here. It's just how much he seems to kind of move around the pitch when he picks up the ball. He does a bit of a layoff with Romelu Lukaku and then bangs it from there. What I feel like as well, both of these goals kind of have in common is that Lukaku is kind of the one holding it up for them. Maybe he hasn't been the best for them, but he is maybe still a pretty decent kind of force when it comes to holding up the
Yeah.
ball for players. So I don't really see Lukaku scoring. I wouldn't be surprised if he did. But I feel like what I'm trying to emphasize here is that with a lot of these sort of Chelsea players, it's kind of the other sort of players that finish. It's not the number nines, it's the midfielders, it's the wingers, it's the number 10s that kind of seem to score the goals.
I mean, yeah, to an extent, it's reflective of Chelsea's very fluid system, I guess, where people are roaming out of their position, and I guess that's what makes them really hard to mark because, especially in that shape that they play, the 4-2-2-2, or I guess recently that they've been playing, it's very much fluid. People can drift out of position, roam, and we mentioned that in just previously with Ziyech and Mount. So I think that's why they get goals from midfield, and even their defenders score quite a bit as well.
Yeah, I feel like yeah, that's the other thing. The defenders even score. They're kind of a team that don't really score a ton of goals. I think at one
Yeah,
stage they were scoring a lot of goals. One they had Ben Chilwell and Reece James, kind of firing, and Callum Hudson-Odoi kind of firing. At one stage, that was when they were scoring a lot of goals, but it seems like recently it's not really been the case for them. And especially that might have to do with those wingbacks being gone for them. But Marcus Alonso, I would say, could definitely pop up with a goal. So that's going to be my third and final threat for them is going to be Marcus Alonso, someone who can either create a goal or kind of score a goal. And also, he just seems to be kind of our bogeyman, I would say. Like, he just always
yeah.
seems to play well against us. And I would say is of that Alonso family, which is a very technically gifted footballing family, I must say. But this is Marcus Alonso, where I do feel like Mason Mount picks up the ball here, finds Alonso making this sort of deep cutting run, and he pings the ball to the back post. He's just somebody I feel like is on that just has, again, really good technical skill that sometimes you just can't really do anything about, has really good delivery, and also kind of still for his age is really good at getting forward.
Yeah, definitely. Marcus Alonso, he's sort of like our bogeyman to an extent, I would say. Him making
Just always
those,
plays well against
yeah,
us.
he always plays well. He always gets far forward, sort of pins our own fullbacks back in our own half, I guess. So he's someone that we're really gonna have to worry about.
Yeah, and do you feel like with Marcus Alonso, like what kind of also makes him kind of tough is that he doesn't really, it's not like he's going to be beating you with a ton of pace or anything like that. I think what kind of makes him tough
Hmm.
is that he kind of can play passes well in the tight areas. He can have really good delivery. He also can have a good shot from distance where he might, make that inverted sort of run and then kind of maybe have a shot or something like that. He's just kind of just somebody that is, to a degree, always been very good at being that sort of bombing wing back. You feel like maybe in the back three, back five corner kind of sort of formation, he's at his best. So do you feel like with
Yeah.
this four in the back, do you think he'll still, have a good match, or do you think he might be kind of a bit more withdrawn?
I think Tuchel has set up his team so to attack more from the left hand side. So Aspilicueta, I guess, stays back at the right back. He defends more, and then he set up the team to attack and focus their offensive play more down to the left. But as always, in a back four, the wing backs or the fullbacks, I guess, will always have more defensive responsibility. And to an extent, that is one of Alonso's weaknesses. So, maybe we can exploit that. I do feel that he is best in a back five where he's given more free reign to bomb forward, make those runs, that excellent off ball movement he
Yeah.
has. But in a back four, maybe that's neutralized to an extent.
Yeah, maybe. I guess we'll see. And, maybe it all has to do with, what Aspilicueta, I feel like, does. Maybe Aspilicueta, if
Hmm.
he doesn't really bump as forward, maybe you could see Marcos Alonso doing exactly what we've been talking about. But if he doesn't, if he bumps forward too, maybe there's a good chance to maybe catch them out there. And we'll kind of discuss that a bit later, everybody. But everybody, like always, hopefully you're kind of enjoying this sort of kind of breakdown of Chelsea. Only one more slide to basically discuss what do Chelsea do well? How can they hurt us? And then we will break down how do Spurs play. This one is on. I mean, I feel like it's going to be back four, so it is a lot harder now to kind of understand maybe how they defend. They're still going to defend, I think, with a huge press where
Yeah.
basically the wingers Ziyech here and Mason Mount, they'll press the fullbacks, they'll press the center backs. They do kind of do versions of kind of a two up top recently, where it seems it's like Lukaku and like a Hudson Odoi, or Lukaku and a Havertz, or maybe this one might be Lukaku Werner. I'm not too sure, but they'll also as well press our center backs. And then there also as well, maybe there'll be this kind of one-on-one sort of like man marking in the midfield, where maybe Skip and Hoiberg will be probably man marked by Jorginho and maybe Kovacic or Conte, which also might make things really, really tough for us. I think it must be said, is on that Chelsea, they are a really good defending team.
I mean, yeah, one of the reasons they defend so well is because their forwards, they press so hard and always try to win the ball high up the pitch. To an extent, it does come from that German school of thought that Tuchel does employ. Chelsea, I believe, 27% of their pressures have been in the final third, which is, one of the highest in all of the Premier League. So definitely, and we know that our defense is capable of a mistake. I'm
Yeah.
not sure if Tanganga is playing. I think Dyer will come back in for Tanganga, but I
Hmm.
do think under that Chelsea press, we did see Tanganga mess up quite a
Do you
few passes. So
Do you think
yeah.
Dyer will really kind of change things pretty dramatically, when we're under a bit of pressure by them? He is somebody that I guess can, make a big mistake, but also can pick out the pass that maybe other center backs can't.
Yeah, I think with Dyer, he does have that, that long ball, that
That's
Kane,
right.
that switch of play. So to an extent, if they do press us high, they leave spaces in behind. And maybe if we play a 5-3-2, we can have that advantage in the midfield and win the ball and then quickly get it to, Kane, and I guess Lucas will partner him up top.
Yeah, I've kind of gone for a cheeky Bergvine inclusion for this one, just to maybe kind of, dream a little bit to see if he can continue on this form. But it easily could be Lucas again. I hope we go for this 3-5-2, as maybe Izhan is alluding to. But that is how Chelsea do defend. We're done with Chelsea, everybody. You can finally, move on to the main course, which is how will Spurs play and how can Spurs take advantage of Chelsea tomorrow. This is how I kind of see us taking advantage of that sort of kind of lineup that we were just kind of showing with Chelsea, where we do have kind of sort of the bombing wing backs, or sorry, bombing kind of center backs of Davies and Sanchez. If we kind of spread the pitch, maybe similarly to how we did against Leicester, I think we could find a lot of success and kind of possession. That will make things, I think, more difficult for Chelsea, because then there's just more ground for them to cover in that sort of press that they do. They wouldn't have to, they would have to move a lot further in terms of distance to kind of track back and kind of cover people. But as well, if we do that 3-5-2, I think it would be nice to have someone like a Harry Winks again, kind of picking out passes to Harry Kane, as well to Lucas or maybe Bergvine. But what's also really key is I think the wing backs are going to need to be there for the likes of Harry Kane. Everybody, I feel like Harry Kane, he was using Region all the time. He's using Doherty all the time. What they kind of just need to be on their best sort of kind of form. Our wingbacks, and I've gone for Doherty for this one just because I feel like Emerson seems like he might not be available for this upcoming one. So another good chance for Doherty to all of a sudden turn to Dohertinho, again, like he did last match. But this is, again, everybody, how I kind of see with a bit of diagrams, how we kind of see us kind of breaking down Chelsea here. But I've gone for this sort of kind of predicted lineup is on, and Sanchez, Dyer is back, Davies, Region, and Doherty going forward, and then Skip, Winks, and Hoiberg in that midfield. What did you like or dislike? But what are your thoughts on maybe that sort of midfield combination of Skip, Hoiberg, and Winks? Do you like it?
Yeah, I do like it. Maybe you could say, oh, it's too defensive, but against a team like Chelsea, to an extent, you kind of have to play like that. I think with the three in the midfield, we can outnumber them in the midfield, and then if Winks and Hoiberg or Winks and Skip drop deep when we're playing out from the back, we can easily overload that Chelsea press. So I think this is definitely a 3-5-2 is definitely the way that we should set up. We do get the results against the big teams that way, like we saw against Liverpool.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully, Bergvine, I feel like does get, a lot of matches though, or, a lot of minutes for this one. Because I feel like he does kind of deserve it. Maybe he plays instead of Lucas, and maybe Lucas could make. Yeah, I feel like Lucas was fine coming off the bench. Like he knows how to make an impact. I feel like coming off the bench. Maybe he's better to start potentially, but I don't know. I want to see Bergvine given minutes. Maybe we'll move to that 3-4-3 if we're losing and we put Bergvine on. I'm not sure, but this is what I've gone for in terms of the lineup here, everybody. And the unsung hero, I don't see Emerson being here. Some of the other players that I could have gone for this one, they haven't. This was kind of funny as Hunt. So I wanted to have like Harry Winks or Ben Davies be the unsung hero, but they've only been playing so much recently that
Mhm.
there's not really actually a lot to work with in terms of kind of like where they rank in our squad. So it's hard to know like how well they're really doing in terms of the stats. Obviously from what we've been seeing, they're playing, kind of out of their skin and much better than we ever thought they would. But they still are like barely over like 10 matches played in terms of like total minutes yet. Some of those guys. So it's kind of hard to like really get
Yeah.
proper stats on some of those players. So eventually, Ben Davies or Harry Winks, might be in one of these unsung hero categories. But I've gone for Hoiberg. I mean, do you feel like maybe eventually a few more matches and you can maybe see maybe Ben Davies or Harry Winks kind of leading in some sort of category?
Yeah, definitely. I think Winks, I'm actually pretty glad that he sort of underwent a renaissance.
Yeah.
Same with Ben Davies as well, because at the end of the day, there's Spurs players. We want them to perform. And look, if they keep performing, let's say they get the draw tomorrow, I think that'd be a huge result. And if they play more games, keep up the consistent performances, we'll definitely see their stats and their numbers will reflect the way that they've been performing lately.
Mm. Absolutely. Let's
Yeah.
break down Hoiberg here, Ishan. Mostly someone who I've always loved. Most passes into the final third, most passes into the penalty area, which I think I will say, that is impressive for Hoiberg. Someone you wouldn't really expect to have that sort of stat. Most progressive passes, most passes completed under pressure, most switches of play, credit to Hoiberg there, most interceptions, and then second most tackles and interceptions. Sometimes, Isan, I'm not sure what your opinion is of Hoiberg. For me, I just feel like sometimes the sort of like average comments, kind of things like that are just so
Mhm.
disrespectful to somebody that
Yeah.
I don't think he's by all means like anyway like a ridiculously gifted footballer or anything, but I feel like he does a lot of things that people don't really notice, and he is someone that is consistently, at a pretty high level sometimes for our players. And I feel like eventually we'll get better players than him in the squad, and he'll still serve a good role. But sometimes I think Hoiberg does more than we actually, realize.
Yeah, look, I'm actually quite fed up of the Hoybier disrespect. I mean, I think Ellie will definitely agree with me if she's in the chat. Look, most passes into the final third, most passes into the penalty area, most progressive passes, most passes under pressure, most switches of the play. I mean, come on. And like people are trying to slate him and say that Hoiberg's the problem. Hoiberg can't do this, Hoiberg can't do that. I mean, look, this guy, second most tackles plus interceptions. We know this guy can defend. We know this guy can win the ball. But then if you look at his stats like this, most passes into the final third and most passes into the penalty area, I mean, he's kind of doing it all for us.
Yeah,
He's
he's kind of
running
doing
that
it
mid.
all.
I mean, he's running that midfield for us, and I can't. I can't believe the audacity of some people to slate this guy when he's been such a good performer for us for the past 2 seasons. I mean, come on. Like this
Yeah, I,
guy, like he is the definition of an unsung hero, I must say.
I think he's won it probably too many times that my bias easily comes through with how many times he wins it. But I just sometimes you're going through all the stats of the squad and you're just like Hoiberg, he just ranks in the top three of everything. Like he literally just does
Yeah.
everything. Even players dribble past at one stage. For a while he was leading in that because he was skinning players all of a sudden. Some nice kind of feet and everything. Honestly, I love Hoiberg, absolute legend, especially because I feel like he's returning, from a really bad spell of form that like,
Yeah.
what was it? I think it was the first Chelsea leg and a few matches before that as well. It might have been, Watford and Southampton, just, not good displays from him. And then I feel like the last two matches, the one against Leicester, I think he was the best of the three midfielders. And then against Chelsea in the second leg, I actually thought again, he was one of the best of the two midfielders. So hopefully he's recovering from the spell of form. I don't want to speak too soon, but I feel like he does deserve still a bit of respect, especially when he was going through that tiny little bad patch, I must say. But we are going to move on to
Mhm.
the key player for this one, and this is kind of one of those moments, Azhan, where you kind of have to realize like stats at the end of the day, they can't, tell everything about a player. They can't, give you sometimes the full picture, I would say. And I feel like with Harry Kane, he's been easily our best player going forward. The past few matches has been our creator, has been our finisher, has been our number nine. He's kind of returning to some of those, beautiful kind of days of what he was practically doing everything for us. I think he's starting to kind of look like that kind of player again. But when it comes to certain stats and everything, it's not exactly reflecting yet. I think he's starting to climb kind of really, back again, with kind of Sunny and everything and competing in some of those areas with Lucas and whatnot. But I've gone for Harry Kane as the key player because I think at the end of the day, we need him to play well in order to beat Chelsea tomorrow.
Definitely. Look, I think with Kane, obviously, when Conte first came in, I think he set up Kane to be more of a advanced, number nine, like a traditional number nine, advanced. Whereas under Mourinho, Kane was dropping very, very, very deep, like into the midfield, sort of deep.
Yeah.
And I think Kane is reverting back into that role where he found so much success under Mourinho. And I do think that's the best way to set up Kane, especially with two strikers, because it allows Kane to drop deep, pull the center backs out of position, and then play that pass in for Lucas or Bergwijn. We'll see who starts tomorrow, I guess.
Yeah. Simon Stevenson here with the legendary comment. Just want to say absolutely spot on with Hoiberg. Honestly, loving the praise. A bit of a Hoiberg moment for me, everybody, because sometimes I do get really saddened when I see him not playing well. But it's just sometimes the disrespect that I was seeing online for the guy was just like
Mhm.
I just couldn't believe it. I was like, the guy's allowed to have a bad few games. But he's silly sly saying if Dyer come back, we can expect long ball from him. So I bench Winks and playing counterattack with Hoiberg skip double pivot is safer for us. This is an interesting comment. Would
Mhm.
you disagree with this? I think he's making a good case for it. I must say, Weir Sly is, but uh, what are you thinking? Do you think the 3-4-3 is better or the 3-5-2 for tomorrow?
I mean, it's hard to say. I really want Bergwijn to play, but I want Lucas to play as well because he's been a good performer for us. But then you have to look against like the game against Liverpool where we got a result against, I arguably or not arguably, definitely a stronger team than us. So it's like, it's a pretty tough decision. Like if you were Antonio Conte, I mean, it'd be pretty difficult to find out or to know which one would be better. But to an extent, I do agree. Maybe if Dyer does come back, it gives us more defensive stability. So maybe you wouldn't need someone like Wings. Maybe having some like
Because they can
Lucas
both
in.
pass, I guess, is
Yeah,
maybe what he's thinking with
yeah,
Dyer and
definitely.
Winks. Yeah. It's an interesting case, I must say, Weird Sly. Honestly, pick yourself up, my man. Key
Yeah, that
player,
was a
Harry
really good thought.
Kane. Most pressures in the attacking third, which I think is quite impressive. Especially last game, we saw him tracking back at multiple stages as well. So it's we're seeing
Mhm.
the effort that maybe we weren't seeing potentially in the beginning of the season. The third most players dribble pass with 28, so he's starting to skin his man again. He's doing that classic Harry Kane roll where he just rolls his center back all the way over and is able to just turn him so beautifully. Honestly, it puts them through the spin cycle at times. Second most aerials won with 43. Second most shot creating actions. These are the kind of stats you want to see him kind of start to lead in. I think this would be a real indicator when he's actually really starting to play well if he's leading that stat. And the most goal creating actions already so far this season. So he is starting to kind of be, like I said, our main creator when it comes to actually the ball going in the back of the net. The most shots per 90 with 3.55, which is good to see. I think you always want to see your striker having at least over 3.5 shots per game. And the second most
Mhm.
goals now in our Premier League sort of goal tally with 5 goals. And he has the highest XG. So you actually look at it, he's really underperforming his XG actually this season. Harry Kane, he has missed a few really good chances, I must say. I'm happy to see that he's getting these chances as on. But maybe that's another thing
Yeah.
sometimes we forget is that Harry Kane could easily be tied with Sonny with 8 goals. And that's what XG even says, which is quite conservative when it comes to estimating goals. So he's underperforming XG. So to a degree, Harry Kane could be close to maybe our top goal scorer if he put some of those away.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Kane, he can put away like chances that no other striker can put away. So you can never write him off. I mean, Chelsea, they're definitely gonna have to focus their defense on him. And Kane, the brilliant thing about him, unlike Lukaku, he's not just a goal scorer. This guy has elite hold up play. This guy has elite passing. This guy really is, like the complete forward. He can do anything, and he will do anything for the team.
What do you make of him like really underperforming the XG? Do you feel like Harry Kane maybe probably could have,
Yeah.
put it, he's missed a few sitters, maybe I guess that's what it's really saying, the
Yeah, I
sitting.
think yeah, I think most of those sitters that he missed were definitely again under Nuno,
Hmm.
where he was performing really, really poorly. And definitely lately the trend has seen him, scoring more goals, putting his chances away. So definitely, you can't doubt Kane. I mean, this guy has done it for season after season after season after season. So doubting him, you're just gonna lose if you doubt him.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's interesting just to see the XG because there you are,
Yeah.
David. I think David can talk about that, as maybe a sort of kind of talking point is like if Harry Kane was more clinical this season, if he, was a bit more concentrated, maybe if he was at his full peak form, probably looks like, according to XG, be tied with Sonny, if not beating Sonny, actually, in terms of Premier League
Yeah.
goals. So it just shows that we could be getting a much better Harry Kane every week. We'll be getting a better Harry Kane, every week is what I'm kind of
Yeah,
thinking. He's kind of growing
and
into kind of his best self again.
yeah, I also wanted to mention maybe if Kane, put away his chances, we could be just sitting in 4th place right now.
That's another thing as well, actually, to be fair to him. But
Yeah,
like David is saying down there, I think he is coming
yeah,
into form, and every
yeah,
week we seem to
definitely.
be getting a better Harry Kane. That's what it feels like. But
Mhm,
all I can say is there, Dave, like you say, he's even with the chances that he hasn't been given this season, even with kind of the lack of service, he could easily be, top goal scorer, which is just showing he is putting himself in the right positions to score, which is all you can ask for from him. That's all you can ask for from him. So big up to Big H.
mhm.
But we are going to move on to how do Spurs attack. And my first threat here is going to actually be kind of I've gone for Bergwijn. It easily could be Lucas here. It's actually Bergwijn doing a lot of what kind of Lucas would do. So,
Mhm.
whichever one I think kind of works with this sort of kind of animation. But I'm going to be kind of talking about how they can kind of actually do a bit of quick build up from kind of a counter attacking, kind of like, we're deep in our own half. You can kind of form a triangle out wide. And then you can have kind of Bergwijn and Harry Kane kind of do that quick kind of sort of combination play in the middle of the park, which is actually, I think, ideally how Conte is probably going to want us to score, is this sort of kind of play where we basically kind of catch Chelsea a bit off guard with some very quick sort of combinations where you
Yeah.
give it to Harry Kane and then all of a sudden Bergwijn, as well as maybe a fullback or somebody, might be through on goal.
Yeah, definitely. I think Nuno also set us up to be counterattacking, but the issue was that it was much too slow, so teams could easily regroup, but get back into their defensive shape. But with Conte, he wants us to have like a few quick passes and then boom, you're through on goal. And Bergwijn, we know he has a lot of pace, and Thiago Silva's getting up there in age, maybe not as quick as he used to be. So that's definitely sort of like a mismatch that maybe we can exploit.
Yeah. And do you feel like as well, like with Conte, what you've seen is maybe a difference between him and Nuno is that Conte doesn't really want, us to be kind of, dwelling on the ball sometimes a lot. He seems to actually like the way that we score when the front three or the front two are actually combining like in really, really tight sort of kind of areas, kind of just doing kind of 1-2 touch passing. It seems like that's how he kind of likes his forwards to play with each other.
Yeah, I think definitely like the overall speed and tempo under Conte is much, much quicker than under Nuno, which is why we're having more success in this counter-attacking system that we do play. And yeah, against Chelsea, we know that they're probably going to dominate the ball. So then when the little time that we do have on the ball, we need to make sure that we're quick and catch them out of possession.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Honestly, spot on there, my man. Just want to say big up to Brian Daigle's in the house. Sue Smith,
Big
thank you
up,
for
Brian.
sticking with us. MS, also thank you as well. Great questions here. Also, I will say we are going to talk about that as sort of a key battle later. MS, Harry Kane versus Rudiger. Rudiger is someone who we did break down as an unsung hero, someone that we were saying we think is very, very talented player. Someone that is also having probably his best sort of season, I think, in his career right now, and he will come up against Harry Kane. Super physical defender as well, Rudiger, and we'll see how Harry Kane can handle that. Dan Coy saying, "Big up, Jack. Great show. Come on, you flat cap army. Beautiful to see. Absolutely beautiful to see. Thank you very much, Dan." And hopefully you're keeping well as well, brother. Also, thank you for enjoying the show. It's beautiful to be here with this on absolute partner in crime. He's absolutely smashing it. We're just breaking down everything now, Spurs wise, Dan. So thank you for joining us for this one. Hoiberg and Skip, I'm going to have as the next sort of kind of threat for us to maybe beat Chelsea. I'm kind of gone for a theme of kind of combos or kind of two players, kind of having a good sort of game together in order for us to win. I don't think we can rely on individual performances. We're going to need like certain sections of the park to play really well. Maybe in order to win, we need our fullbacks to play really well. Maybe we need our midfield to play really well. Maybe we need our front two to play really well together, not as much on an individual sort of basis. So the second sort of thread I have here is having to do with kind of the midfield kind of leading the counterattacks, because if we do
Mhm.
that 3-5-2, Harry Winks, he likes to just sit deep and kind of just sit kind of close to the center backs, where Skip and Hoiberg will be doing all that work, kind of bombing up and down the pitch as sort of the box to box sort of players that can also win the ball high up the pitch and press really well, but also will be kind of those players leading sometimes the counterattack. So that's what I've gone here is kind of Hoiberg and Skip kind of leading the counterattacks. And what do you feel like, when it comes to Hoiberg and Skip? Isn't that kind of something that sometimes we don't realize as well, is these guys will be those ones that are making that run all of a sudden in behind. And even we saw against Chelsea at one stage last time we played them, Hoiberg was actually clean, through on goal before Rudiger made that tackle on him.
Yeah, definitely. That challenge was a yellow card, by the way.
Yeah, I
I
forgot about that.
still
Yeah.
won't get over that. But
Skip and Hoiberg, yeah,
yeah,
leading the counterattacks, you feel like.
yeah, definitely. I believe Hoiberg has like 2 or 3 goals for us
Yeah.
this season as well, so maybe he could even get on the score sheet. Like, who knows? And especially Skip, we do know that he does have that progressive passing ability.
Hmm.
So, maybe, we're probably gonna score through counterattacks. And if they can win the ball and then boom, get it up to our front two and put them, uh clean clean through on goal, then like, that's probably the best plan for us, I would
Yeah.
say.
Do you feel like maybe with Skip and Hoiberg, like they also are kind of, I think Skip especially is a great carrier of the ball when kind of leading a
Mhm.
counterattack. Sometimes he doesn't really thread through that right pass, but other times he will. But I think what makes Skip also important for this one is he can actually carry the ball really well when we're kind of trying to lead some sort of counterattack.
Yeah, another thing about Skip is that he very rarely gets tackled with the
Yeah,
ball. I don't remember seeing him get tackled because
doesn't lose it.
he's
Yeah,
like, he is very mature for his age. He's very calm, he's very collected on the ball. Doesn't matter, even against Man City in the season opener, he had a pretty good game, I would say. And, Skip, he just keeps improving game by game. So,
yeah,
I mean,
spot
he's a
on.
brilliant player, brilliant player.
Yeah, I think they're beautiful together. Skip and Hoiberg, two Vikings, just sharing, the same sort
Mhm.
of Viking table, if you ask me. MS here saying, "Good show, Jack. I'll take a draw right now. Come on, you Spurs." It's been honestly, it's been a long time since we've had a good result, MS, against Chelsea, and hopefully it comes tomorrow. If we get any sort of result like a draw or 3 points, I feel like that will be the real sign that things are really starting to click together with this team. I feel like it's probably one of the hardest results we can try to shoot for this season, is to get a point, or 3 points away at the bridge, especially considering our history and as well as them just being a really difficult team to play against. I know they're not in the best spell of form, but it's not like they're just an easy team to kind of take advantage of right now. I think they still play
Mhm.
some pretty brilliant football at times. Chelsea do, so it will be tough tomorrow. But really appreciate the compliments as well, MS. Really appreciate the
Yeah.
donation as well. And thank you for joining us for this one this evening. If anybody as well does want to maybe ask Ishan a question or me a question when it comes to Chelsea or how Spurs play tomorrow, do feel free to throw it in a super chat. We'll try to get to your comments still as much as I can. But we will be starting to move on to some of the more threats and everything about how Spurs can play. Hopefully, you're kind of enjoying these sort of animations as well, everybody, because I've kind of gone for a theme of basically sort of like part mid sections of maybe the 11, kind of relationships in the 11 that need to work well in order for us to kind of win tomorrow. And it's like here I've broken down the midfield as maybe a thing that needs to play well tomorrow in order for us to win. Maybe the front two need to play well tomorrow in order for us to win. Just there needs to be some sort of kind of mix of relationships of players that need to go really well in order for us to get the result. In my opinion, we can't just have Harry Kane play well and then win. I think we need to have Harry Kane and Lucas play well. Harry Kane and Bergwijn play well together in order for it to really be some sort of result for us. And the last one is going to be Doherty and Region as kind of our bombing wingbacks. And kind of what I've wanted to highlight here that, maybe Doherty I thought does really well, and he did it really well last kind of game, is Doherty will make these sort of kind of inverted runs kind of here where sometimes instead of just taking it out wide like Emerson seems to do every time, he will actually make that sort of run where he'll kind of actually dart into the midfield or kind of do an outside sort of touch, to somebody, and then kind of make a darting run through the midfield. And maybe what makes Doherty a bit better going forward than Emerson is he makes kind of a bit more creative kind of runs at times.
Yeah, look, I mean, as much as a lot of the fan base doesn't like Doherty, and myself included, I also
I
don't
think
rate him that
most of us,
much.
yeah.
Yeah, he did have a lot of success at Wolves bombing forward. And especially making those overlapping runs and those runs. Also, yeah, inverted runs as the animation shows.
Yeah,
He
sorry, I
does
didn't
know
have
how
it
to.
up there for a second. I was
Yeah,
talking while it's supposed to be. But yeah, like he makes these
yeah.
runs that Emerson might not, is I feel like maybe what
Yeah,
he
he
could
does
be
he
taking
does cut
advantage of.
inside more than Emerson. Emerson sort of likes to hug the touchline to an extent. And he's forced out wide a little, but Doherty does have the ability to cut inside. We did see at Wolves he didn't have a lot of success getting into that penalty box as well. So I'm sure Conte is aware of this, and maybe he can use it. Like use his ability
Hmm.
because we have seen him get the best out of the likes of Winks and Davies. So why not Doherty?
And it seems like as well though, like Emerson might not be available for this one. So we're just gonna have to
Yeah,
depend on, Doherty having, a good performance here. And do you feel like maybe do you think he could have a good game against Chelsea? Is this, maybe a team that he actually could show up for? It's hard to say because this would be a tough test for him. I guess he'd be coming up against Alonso, which is,
yeah.
better than maybe Aspilicueta. But what does he have to maybe do well in order to have a good game, do you think?
Doherty having a good game, I'll say right now, like, don't bet on it. Like, just don't put money on it because you're probably gonna lose that money. But look, with Doherty, he's gonna have to defend well, which is why I would have actually liked to see Emerson because we won't see much of the ball. I could see Chelsea having maybe up to like 60% possession, so
Yeah.
we will be defending a lot. And we mentioned before, Alonso loves to make those runs forward, so Doherty is definitely gonna have to defend well, and we haven't seen much of his defensive ability in the time he's been with us at Spurs. So,
No. That's I'm a bit worried about is he still is
yeah.
a bit suspect defensively. He still is, no matter how good he is sometimes going forward. On the right hand
Mhm.
side, he's also just always been a bit suspect defensively, I think, compared to Emerson. And maybe we're going to need a more defensive wing back, there with Emerson coming up against Alonso and like a Mason Mount. But, I don't think Emerson's going to be available for this one. So, we're going to have to see how
Yeah.
Doherty does. And this is
Do
what
you
Doherty can offer, I guess, is what I'm thinking.
do you think that maybe Tanganga will start at right wing back? I know it's probably not gonna happen, but it's just like sort of an outside thought.
Hmm.
Do you think maybe Conte will play Tanganga at right wing back?
That's tough. He does seem to really like Tanganga, but I think he wants his wingbacks to offer something going forward. I think Emerson probably offers more than what Tanganga does.
Yeah,
Um, and as well as Emerson seems to be a bit better defensively out there as well, where like Tanganga
yeah,
really struggled that one match actually at right wing back
yeah.
at one
But
stage.
if
So
if Emerson is unavailable and we're gonna likely, look to defend a lot in this game against Chelsea, maybe we could see Tanganga. It would be
yeah, just
surprising,
to
but
start
it's a
maybe with.
possibility.
Yeah, maybe just to start
Yeah.
with. He probably wants to start more defensive. And then if he needs to put someone on that's a bit more attacking later, he can do that instead of just starting out that way. I think you have a good point there. But we are going to move on to players to target for this one. Marcus Alonso, as I was just discussing, I think could be a player to target. He's great going forward, everybody, but not so good defensively at times. I think that's always been the case for him. He's kind of a bit of a giraffe, I feel like, at certain moments when kind of defending but is ridiculous going forward. So we do have to always take that into consideration. Jorginho, what's actually, I feel like Jorginho, if you do put like maybe a man on him, like a Hoiberg or a Skip, you can win the ball off him. Sometimes he kind of dwells on the ball. I feel like a little bit
Mhm.
is on Jorginho. I think he is a very good player, but he also can kind of be just kind of bit complacent on the ball where he'll like kind of think he has that extra touch when he doesn't. If you have like Skip and a Hoiberg putting a tough tackle on him, I feel like you could actually take advantage of maybe sometimes Jorginho.
Yeah, sometimes Jorginho thinks he has more time on the ball than he actually does. Like sometimes he has errors in judgment or like lapses in concentration. So I think that if you have really hard-working midfielders like Skip and Hoiberg that love to put in like tough tackles and win the ball quick, definitely Jorginho is someone that you can really target and try to win the ball off of a lot. And then if you win the ball in the midfield quickly, you can then counter, which is like the plan that Conte will definitely employ tomorrow.
Spot on, my man. Spot on. Well said. Kepa is my third kind of player to target. I feel like he's been playing kind of well recently from what I've
Yeah,
seen.
he actually has.
Yeah, he's been playing quite well recently, so maybe not as relevant as it used to be. But potentially someone from distance, I would say we should maybe, take advantage of, kind of like Casper Schmeichel, where if you have a shot from distance, he sometimes can be a bit like a Galini and not really know what to do with his body or kind of how to read it. So I would say somebody that we should hopefully be confident against. But at the same time, like Hassan kind of agreed, kind of coming into a better spell of form than I thought he would be in, to be fair to him. But we are going to go
Mhm.
into my first key battle, and it is basically just going to be Romelu Lukaku against any one of these center backs, because I think Lukaku, he'll drift around a lot, is on. So it's not like he'll
Yeah.
just be just in front of Sanchez or just in front of Dyer or just in front of Davies. He's going to be kind of moving around a lot, and he'll be doing that sort of hold up play where he has his back to one of them. And I think we are going to be a bit worried, about how they might handle kind of the strength of Lukaku, especially if, let's say, maybe his touch and everything is a bit better than it usually is.
Yeah, the thing with Lukaku, I feel at Chelsea, he's been like pretty lazy to an extent.
Interesting.
Especially outside of possession. And I don't know, like in possession, when Chelsea do have the ball, I don't think that he's making a lot of, like runs in behind, constantly testing the defense. I think he's like staying up there, sort of like almost like a target man, sort of. And I think that's actually pretty dangerous because we know Dyer and Sanchez like to switch off, and we know how quick Romelu Lukaku can be, especially his sprint speed. So yeah, definitely we're gonna have to watch out for him. Look, and also another thing, Conte worked with him extensively, so he probably knows his weaknesses. He probably
Hmm.
knows how to set them up. He can probably tell them, look, he does this, he does that, and then maybe we can neutralize that threat with that additional knowledge that Conte has of him.
Well said, actually, is on everybody. Honestly, big up his on the comments because that was well said. Lukaku, honestly, for me, I think he can have good games and then he can have bad games. It seems like it's just back and forth for him at Chelsea. I see him sometimes. I think I watch him and I'm like, well, what's all the hate for? He seems to be playing well, and then I'll miss a game, and according to people, he was atrocious. So he seems to be kind of just back and forth. He can either be a glorified donkey or an absolute unit of a number nine. It's hard to say with Lukaku, but I feel like what must be said is how will they handle that sort of physicality? How will they handle that sort of toughness? Is remained to be seen. But Dan Coy's here with the super chat saying this will be our fourth game this season with Kepa in goal. We have to make the most of this. It seems like we haven't been, especially we'll say, what is it, 5 of the last 6 away games? We have, or I think it was, yeah, 5 of the last 6 away games. Dan, we have yet to score against Chelsea, and I think
have
it's
and
some sort of record. Like if we go the next one against them away, or tomorrow, if we lose tomorrow and don't score, that would be the most for an entire club's history of
I
actually,
mean,
going that many games against a
yeah.
particular team and not scoring. So we need to score, my man. Absolutely need to score with Kepa, especially in goal. They're practically asking for it, Dan. They're practically asking for it.
Mhm. I mean, how many games have we gone without beating Chelsea? I mean, it's just too much. Like, if we could get a win, I would go crazy. I
Yeah,
mean,
it
you
seems
know,
it seems they almost seem harder to beat than Liverpool really is for us. So, that's what I would even say. It
yeah.
seems like it's
I
almost
think
harder for us
yeah.
to beat them.
I think to an extent that's because Liverpool do give a lot of space in
Yeah,
behind. So like, they're very susceptible to the counterattack, whereas Chelsea play a bit more cautiously, a bit more defensively sound than
yeah.
Liverpool. So that's why it's harder to score against them. Like you said before, they're not a team that scores a lot, like 3 or 4 goals per game, but they do score.
They do score and they do keep you out of the net, really well,
Yeah.
Chelsea. But the next key battle here is going to be Doherty, who is likely to start tomorrow against Mason Mount and Marcus Alonso. So, Isan, I'm kind of going to just, let you take the, kind of the analysis here because you just brought this up earlier. Doherty, he's going to have to defend a lot. We might be sitting really deep at times. And these are the two that he'll probably be coming up against, which does not really breed me with confidence, I would say.
Yeah, like every time like Doherty is like one on one, like with a player like on the wing, I'm just like sitting here like chewing my nails off. And like, Mount and Alonso are two really good players, especially going forward. I think maybe defensively, Hoiberg will sort of help out on the
Yeah.
right hand side. Uh, so we'll see, but I'm to be honest, I'm not really looking forward to Doherty having to defend them because that's not his strength. Even when he was performing well, and that was like back when he was at Wolves, defending was never his strength. So it'll be pretty tough.
Yeah, and just the movement of those two will just be tough for Doherty. I feel like he'll just be a bit kind of overwhelmed by it because those two, they don't really rely on their pace or anything. They just rely on their intelligence of movement. And I don't know, that kind of just all the wrong things to be saying, coming up against, Doherty's defensive skills. So hopefully he can handle
Yeah, don't
himself.
worry. In the pre-match pump up, we'll just go next level delusion. Don't worry. Doherty's gonna drop a masterclass at
Irish
right wing
coffee.
back. Yeah, we're gonna win 3-0. Like, don't worry about it.
He'll turn into the Irish coffee, everybody, tomorrow. The next key battle is the midfield battle. If we go for this 3-5-2, Harry Winks, Hoiberg, Skippy against Jorginho and Kovacic. I think it could be N'Golo Kante as well for this one. But I think what needs to happen if we do go three people in the midfield is honest. These two midfielders, probably Hoiberg and Skip, need to basically be almost man marking probably Jorginho and Kovacic if they can at times, because then that just makes the way that Chelsea play, the way that they try to progress the ball, a whole lot harder for them.
Yeah, I think Kovacic especially, he's a very annoying player to come against because he never loses the ball. And it's pretty tough to win the ball off of, even tackle him to an extent. But if you have three players in that midfield, if you can outnumber them, so maybe like Chelsea's midfield is more technically skilled than our midfield, but we have three players and they only have two. Maybe if we can win the battle in midfield, that'll really help us get a result from this game.
I really agree with you. Do you feel like as well, maybe what Kovacic kind of brings is he is kind of also a bit of a press breaker at times as well. Like he is kind of somebody
Mhm.
that just has that ridiculous touch and technical ability. It's really hard to get the ball, I would say, off of Kovacic. So what maybe needs to happen, do you feel like is, someone like a Skipper or Hoiberg to potentially come up against him who, are actually quite defensively sound. And so maybe those are the best sort of matchups for someone as good as Kovacic.
Yeah, I think what we need to do is definitely like clog up the midfield, I would say. So don't really give them passing lanes. They only have two players up front, so that's not a lot of options. So if you can clog up the midfield, don't give, options for them, you can really sort of stall Chelsea's attack and maybe push them out wide.
Mm, I know what
And
you
if they're
mean.
playing, yeah, and if they're playing four at the back, their fullbacks can't really get forward as much as they would maybe like to, in if they were playing a back five. So I think definitely clogging up that midfield, blocking those passing lanes. That's definitely the way that we should look to play.
Loving that. Absolutely loving that answer, my man. Absolutely loving it. And then the final key battle here is Harry Kane against Antonio Rudiger. Something that was spoke about before, I believe, in a super chat and in a comment as well, saying with Rudiger being our unsung hero, with Rudiger being a very very difficult sort of player to play against this season, I think he's going to be the one a lot of times responsible for coming up against Harry Kane. Do you feel like Rudiger could cause Harry Kane some problems, and then also vice versa? Do you feel like Harry Kane could cause him some problems?
Look, I Kane and Rudiger are almost like exact opposites in a sense, where like Kane is like, like a bit like slower, like he doesn't really have that pace, but he's very like, like has a lot of game awareness, has a lot of technical ability, and he's a very much,
Yeah.
like a model professional, whereas like Rudiger is more like a very much a wind-up merchant and like very like physical, very fast. So like they're almost like complete opposites, like
Yeah, the
fire and
ethos of the
ice.
player. I know what you mean.
Yeah, Kane. So, but look, like I said before, Rudiger, not the most defensively strong player. His his strengths go in his are in his passing and going forward. And Kane, look, he's the best. He's the best striker in the Premier League. So, he's definitely going to give him problems. He gives every defender in the world problems. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
who's Rudiger? Come on, let's be real.
Yeah, I think with Rudiger, like we just have to honor the fact that he is a very good player defensively when it comes to, just being that shithouser. When it comes to just
Yeah.
being, kind of just knocking players to the ground and kind of, making them think about him. But Harry Kane, I feel like there will be a few moments when he will roll him and maybe as well get him an early yellow card, which I think could be
Mhm.
something nice to see. That's something especially to look out for. But we will move on, and it is the end of the stats with Jack preview. Ishan, do you feel like maybe there's some stats or kind of insights that maybe we haven't touched on, that things maybe that people should know about that maybe hasn't been spoken about yet, or maybe some stats that you feel like people need to know?
Yeah, one thing I wanted to mention is that in terms of expected goals against per 90, where Spurs are not far behind Chelsea in terms of how good our defense is. Chelsea's expected goals against per 90 is 0.95, which is one of the lowest in the league. I think that's just behind Man City, so the second best defense in the league by that metric. And Spurs are 1.1 expected goals against per 90.
Hmm,
So our defenses in terms of expected goals against
doing a lot
are
better.
quite similar and pretty good. So I think you'll probably see maybe like a 1-0 or a 0-0. I wouldn't be surprised. It's almost going to be like a chess match trying to grind water
Yeah.
out of stone to an extent. I could see something like that happening.
Maybe it won't be as easy, or maybe maybe in terms of watchable kind of matches, ones that really get you off your seat, might be more of kind of a tactical battle for this one, like where it's kind of maybe two very kind of cautious sort of teams
Yeah.
coming up against each other, and maybe it won't be as kind of end to end like maybe other games that we've had.
Yeah, definitely. I can see something like a very defensive battle. I think both managers will be cautious and Conte will be cautious because, Chelsea are the better squad. And then maybe Tuchel will also be cautious because in the Premier League, we're undefeated under Conte and Chelsea aren't in the best form. So I could see both managers being cautious, and then maybe we could get a 0-0 like we saw like with Mourinho back when Lampard was Chelsea's manager, a 0-0. I think we
Yeah.
could see something like that.
Yeah, I think I would easily take a nil-nil right
Yeah,
now, and hopefully,
definitely.
I would love to have that. That sounds like actually a great result. But that is the end of the show, everybody. Ishan absolutely smashed it for this one. I did really like having him as kind of a bit of a somebody to bounce off of when it comes to kind of the stats with Jack. A bit of kind of 1-2 sort of action for you. Hopefully, you enjoyed it, everybody. Please, as always, do drop that like, do drop that subscribe, especially if you have been new to the sort of stats with Jack. Do share it as well if you feel like there are some people that need to see it. Maybe to get some more respect on Harry Kane if you love him, if maybe more respect on Hoiberg, maybe as well to talk about certain Chelsea threats that need to be spoken about as well. But do everybody do hope that you enjoyed this show. Do hope that you enjoyed Ishan's sort of work, and everybody do big up Ishan in the chat for joining me for this one. Absolutely smashed it. But Ishan, do you feel like score predictions? What are you thinking? Maybe for Spurs tomorrow, what would be a result that you see happening, and like what would you take?
Like my heart says 5-0 Spurs, but I don't think that's really realistic. I'm going for a 0-0. I think it's going to be pretty boring. Maybe one team nicks it 1-0, probably going to be Chelsea, but I see a 0-0.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah.
Absolutely love that. Nice nil-nil. I'd take it any day. Hopefully that'll be maybe the case tomorrow. It's a bit of a free hit for us, everybody. But
Mhm.
everybody, like always, do hit that subscribe button. Do as well head on over to the second channel where you might also see a bit of Izhan talking transfers with me at one stage as well. hopefully in some time soon. But we will hit you with the pre-match build-up tomorrow, nice and early my time, I believe around 12 p.m. noon UK time, everybody, for the pre-match build-up tomorrow. And then we will be doing the watch-along as always. But everybody, as always, please, as always, and Antonio we trust, and Conte we trust, and come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.